Abhyayantu mamangani Vakpranashashushrotamato Balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranam Astvanirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mayi Santu Te Mayi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so just for quick revision, we've talked about two important principles of how to understand anything, and that is understanding has two levels. So when someone teaches you something, they're talking the underlining words behind what is being conveyed. So if I say to you, right, bring me water. Now that is, if I say that literally, then you have to bring me a big blob of water. But what I actually mean is, right, bring me water inside a cup. So two words we conveyed, which is vachyarta, which is direct meaning. So this is again why someone can read philosophy for years and not understand the full import of what it's saying. The reason is because philosophy uses direct meaning of the words. And if you stick to the direct meaning of the words, you're going to have a wrong impression about what the philosophy is conveying to you. So if I say to you, hey, how are you feeling today? Oh, really? So what are you saying? Well, I mean that you look, kind of pretty today. But if I say to you again, you look better yesterday, what do you mean by that? Right? I didn't really even say that, and yet you picked up the underlining tone behind the words. So this underlining tone behind the words is what the teacher communicates, which is called lakshyarta. Lakshyarta. Deeper meaning. Okay? So now we ask the question, when it comes to the reality is conveyed in three words. And the first word we said is chit. So chit means, right, literally it means aliveness. Because when you say to someone, I am conscious, I'm aware, what person looks at that as I am sentient, I am just, sort of walking and breathing. But that is not what we mean. What we mean is we take out the meaning that we don't wish to convey, okay? And we bring in the meaning that we want to convey. So we say, I don't mean aliveness. So you have to mention what you don't mean. What I mean is the presence which doesn't come and go. The presence which doesn't change. The truth of all of your that which underlies all your experiences, that without which no experience can take place. Because you need a conscious entity in order to recognize changes, to cognize different changes. Okay? Now when it comes to sat, existence, you say, well, what is existence? Existent table, existent light, existent flower. So literally, right, the vachyarta, you take that to be within time and space. If I say existent universe, you say, yeah, existent universe. But what you really mean is universe in itself. But we don't mean just the universe. We mean the existence because of which time and space comes. General existence, which is not bound by space and time. The existence which was there before the Big Bang. the existence which will continue to be after this universe goes into a pralaya, which is a macrocosmic dissolution. That means once the universe will go into a singularity, and that singularity disappears into potential. And then we said the last word is ananta. So what kind of existence is it? Is it two existences? Now, if you want to say two existences, look at this. Existence 1, existence 2. That is always in reference to objects. Okay? But we don't mean existence with attributes. We mean existence, the content, because of which this is and this is. So in other words, if I say pen is, right? Cap is, marker is, ink is. So what's one commonality throughout? Is. And yet what changes? The name and form. In other words, is seemingly modifies itself into the marker. Thought is, emotion is, absence of thought is, samadhi is, lack of samadhi is. In other words, they all depend on is. Okay? Therefore, one constant throughout all objects, whether you say it or not, is the is. In other words, you cannot say one statement in your life without silently implying the existence of it. You understand this? In other words, whether you say speaker, you don't have to say speaker exists. Just to say speaker, the implication, the deeper tone behind it is speaker. I said speaker because speaker is. Okay? Therefore, the isness is the one common substratum throughout all names and forms. And this isness is what's also there because of time. Time is. Space is. What kind of existence thus is it? It is one without the second. Because the only way you can say that two things exist is by giving them attributes. But we just said there's one isness from which or by which all objects depend for their existence. Therefore, it is ananta, it is limitless. So what kind of existence is it? It is one existence without a difference. So there's no two existences somewhere. How are you going to imagine two existences? How are you going to have two? What do you mean? Two existences in reference to what? In reference to an object. But we don't mean object. We mean an existence because of which existent object is. Okay? Therefore, sat, which is existence, chit, what kind of existence is it? Whatever is, there is awareness of that, considering you have a mind. If you're a rock, then you cannot say that the speaker is because you don't have a mind. What kind of an existence is it? It is an awareful existence. So it's not just some inert, dead existence. It is an existence that is fully conscious all the time, just like you are. Do you exist? And what comes with your existence? Inertness? Coma? No, it comes a conscious being. Therefore, existence and consciousness are always together. Therefore, they are ananta. They are one and the same. Okay? So this was what we mentioned. And then we mentioned how knowledge takes place in your mind. And we said that for any object to enter your mind, what has to happen? Your eyes need to be open. Like now, if I hide this pen and I show this pen has entered your mind. But two operations have taken place when I show this. Okay? It happens so quickly, we all miss it. Like that. Two things happen right now. What happened first is there was absence of pen. And you waited and waited and waited and waited, and pen image got created in your mind. So the image in your mind right now replicates this object right here. So what you're really seeing is not this object here, you're seeing your mind right now. Your mind is replicating this object. And because this object has replaced the ignorance of this pen, for that reason, I'm no longer ignorant of the pen. In other words, your mind has recreated the object of this pen, and because it's created this object of this pen, ignorance of the pen has been removed. Therefore, two words we introduced yesterday, which was vritti. Vritti doesn't just mean thought, it means a mental mode. That means a mind that can obtain as an emotion, as an epiphany, as an insight, as an image. Vritti vyapti. Okay, so vyapti means result. So what has resulted? An image. And because it has resulted, what else happened? Removal of ignorance of that image has taken place. Therefore, phala vyapti. Phala vyapti. Phala means fruit. So what is the fruit of this showing you the pen? Oh, I see the pen. Now you say, well, geez, what's the big deal? It's just so simple. Well, first of all, we need to use these two words because we don't analyze our experience. We just kind of, see things, but what's happening all the time is constantly ignorance is being removed. Because right now, I don't see behind me. Now I see behind me. So now ignorance of behind is removed. And the image is also recreated in my mind. So this means when you learn anything in your life, all life, you're creating images. That's how the mind works. Whether they are sounds, whether they are kind of feelings or taste, they're mental modes, vrittis. So that's the way the mind works. It works through modes, through minds shaping and shifting. This shaping and shifting of the mind is called vritti. So whenever the mind represents an image, that is called a vritti. And we said an example, Shaka Chandra Nyaya, yesterday. What is this? It means that in order to find the moon, Chandra is moon, I need the help of something else. We're all looking at where is the moon? I don't see it. I don't see it. The Guru says it's over there, right there. I don't see it. If you ever play this game where your friend says, can you see the bird? And the bird's so camouflaged with the tree, you just don't see the bird. And thus, you kind of, I don't know where it is. So the friend has to say, look at the bark. Can you see the fat tree bark? Absolutely. Can you see the branch? Yes, I can. Can you see above? Which one? 5 of them. No, it's the third one. I can see. Can you see the fruit? The big fruit, the collection of fruits. I can see the collection of fruits. Now go about the collection of fruits right to the top of the tree. Yep, now go slightly left and see a little dim light. Can you see the dim light? Now I can see it. In other words, the tree, the leaves, the birds, the fruits, whatever tools you use, you were creating vritti vyaptis. You were creating mental images in the student's mind. You created the image of the bark, the image of the fruit, the image of the tree, the image of the bird. And then you say, look at that. I see it now. I see what you were pointing me to. Now, the only limitation of this example is
it's an object.
It's an object. See? So Vedanta has many examples, but understand this, no example can convey the reality. So where people often fall for it is to say, yeah, but let me break down the example. We say, yeah, we know you can break the example down, but that's not the point. The point is, example can only take you so far, and it's done its job. Like the bark, like the tree, it's no longer useful, it did its job. I want to show you something else. Thus, when it comes to understanding who you are, your nature as I am, we said you cannot objectify I am. You can't objectify self, your existence, because the only thing you can objectify is existent things, existent thought, existent emotion, existent concern, existent worry. But you cannot objectify your general pure existence. Why not? Because we said that, like a glass, it's always conditioned by a color. In other words, your general existence, who you are, you always have some thought on top of you. You always have some emotion on top of you. You always have some concern on top of you. You will never find a moment in your life where you experience something that is not on top of you. The only way that you can experience pure consciousness, or not experience but know pure consciousness, is in one place, your buddhi, a self-evident I. But it's not an object. Self-evident I is not an object. Therefore, when it comes to knowing who you are, what moksha actually means, it is not an object. So we cannot say it is vritti vyapti. It is only phala vyapti. In other words, what happens is, when it comes to the nature of yourself, you remove images in your mind that were making it seem like you are something, someone, some feeling, some sensation, some image. And this image and sensation is so deeply ingrained in us that even if you say you are not sounds, the mind latches onto something else. You are not images, the mind latches onto something else. So this is why liberation is rare, because the mind keeps on putting images. But it can't do that. As long as you're putting images, you're not getting in touch with what we're talking about. You're converting you, the unobjectifiable conscious being, into something that can be objectified. How about this? Yeah, I'll get enlightened in the future. You see this? What is that in the future? It's a mental mode. It's an image. We're saying, because of which you're able to imagine that, in whose presence are you able to imagine that you'll get enlightened in the future? In the presence of I am, right now. Therefore, we said the word for this in Sanskrit is Akhanda Akara Vritti. Vritti, so you know the word vritti, mental mode. But what kind of a mental mode? It is Akhanda Akara. It is a kind of a mode where there is no division. It's a formless mode. And what kind of a mode is formless? Well, it's a mode that implants no images in you. It has no form. Therefore, it removes this notion that I'm supposed to be some kind of an experience. I has to be some kind of an experience. That goes away. Which is ironic, isn't it? Because, if you go into just like beginner, the spiritual world, just beginner, literally every single person, 99% to be safe, will have some notion, some idea that the reality that they're looking for is some kind of an object, some kind of an experience object that will be known in the future. Therefore, when we finally realize that it cannot be ever an object, then you let go of this idea that you haven't got it. Because just to be concerned that I haven't got it, what is there still? What's lighting up that thought that I, whoever this I is, hasn't got it? I am. And that I am is the final truth. In other words, it's the closest thing to you. It's never been away from you. It's always been lighting up and showing all of the experiences that have ever haven't taken place to you, including those experiences of thinking that you didn't get it. That too was just one more vritti vyapti. So every vritti vyapti was in the presence of you. Okay. So I think we've done our revision now. Let's see what's next here. Okay. So far we have mentioned, the question started in verse 1.1. Is there a presence in which everything operates, and it doesn't interfere with the mind. It doesn't interfere with the senses. It's just there, and that presence is awareness, which doesn't make your mind do anything. It just lights up what your mind is doing. Just like, why are we all seeing each other right now? Why are we all seeing each other right now? Bodies.
Because of light.
Because of light. Turn on the light. We can do things left and right. We can do whatever we want. Total darkness here. Nothing's happening. In other words, you need the light to illumine how many bodies? Just one? One light illumines. If you put 1 million bodies here, it will illumine 1 million bodies. If you put one brain here, it will illumine one brain or person. So like this, one awareness in the presence of whom is illumining right now all of our minds in this moment. So whatever is lighting up, making known this experience is one awareness, which is Sat and Chit, and has no second, which is Anantam. Therefore, what is common between you and I right now?
Our light.
That one light. Is your I am any different from mine? No. Is your I am any different from the I am of the most liberated individual who's going to be born in 5,000 years from now, called Avatara? Or Krishna, or Rama, or Jesus, or whoever? No, it's one I am. And it's always been like that. And that's what the teacher wants, that's what the tradition wants to point out. Therefore, there is nothing that you are missing, because your I am, which is lighting up this experience, is the truth of the whole universe, from which everything comes. Now, this is going to raise a question. So, we said, is there a presence in which everything operates? And we said, yes, there is. And we also collapsed the entire universe, or we collapsed concepts, we collapsed forms into concepts. In other words, everything that you analyze through your mind, you will see that it's nothing but concepts within concepts within concepts. You can't find the hen. You can't find the hen. If I bring the hen right here now, it's a cute animal, right? Or a cute bird. It's a bird, right? But if I take any part of that hen and I look at it under a microscope, I can't see its beak anymore. So I kind of like beaks from hens, right? Or I like the dog snouts. I think they're cute. So I'm like, oh, such a cool, nice beak and snout. But if I look at it under a microscope, I can't find what I was just adoring a second ago. It's gone. It's just fibers within fibers. But if I look those fibers up into a microscope, I can't find those fibers. They reduce into just tightly packed atoms together. You can see this on Google Images. It's amazing. Or they can see not the atom, they can see the electron cloud around the atom. They can't see the nucleus. But it doesn't matter. They can still use high amount of inference and scientific data to deduce and come up with what is the atom further made of. And you can reduce atoms into quarks. So now, what am I finding cute here? Am I finding cute the snout of the dog, some atoms here and there, the electron cloud, a bunch of quarks? It's really funny, right? It's really strange when you look at it like this. But again, you cannot find the final building block of a quark. In fact, science will just show you it's just all mathematics at the end of the day. And mathematics is nothing but formulas to try to understand the final truth. So the Vedanta, the final content. So what Vedanta says is the final content is concepts. In other words, it is blueprint from which everything is really made. So there's no such thing as a snout or an atom or a quark. It's just concepts within concepts within concepts appearing as names and forms, names and forms, names and forms. So all you're seeing here now are just names and forms of one content, which is blueprint, which is concepts, manifesting as all this. And thus, then the objection would now come naturally. And you would say, well, how did the mind, the prana, the legs, the snout, the atoms, how did it all come about in the first place? And isn't Sat Chit attributeless? Now, if Sat chip is attributeless, then how do you come up with all of these attributes from an attributeless reality? It's just kind of a strange thing to even understand. And you can't have a second subchit because we said you can't have a second reality, you need to put an attribute. So what? Does this subchit, this reality, borrow from another subchit which is also attributeless? What are you going to get from another attributeless reality? More attributelessness. So you can't kind of call up someone and you're after all, you're formless. You need a form, and a form is already a form. You can't call up subchit number 2 and say, hey, I need some material for the universe, please come over. Right? So there's only one subchit which is attributeless, and yet forms come out of it. Thus, to reconcile this, we say there is an intervening factor. And in other words, awareness, the final reality, without undergoing any change whatsoever, has the potential to manifest the universe. And what is to be manifest through this potential? Time, space, and objects. And this potential is knowledge and power. So this potential, when it's unmanifest, it is knowledge and power. When it's manifest, the same potential is still knowledge power, but it's manifesting. So it's one knowledge power potential in awareness, which remains in potential. Just like the knowledge power, the knowledge for a tree remains inside the seed. You can't find a huge world of form, of dense matter inside the seed. There's just no correlation whatsoever. But it is inside the seed. Now again, even this example has a limit, doesn't it? Because to say that the seed is now awareness, you say, well no, seed is attributes. But awareness is attributeless. So again, every example has a limitation. It is not meant to start an argument, it's just meant to convey a possibility. Therefore, in the Mandukya Upanishad, there's a verse that says anything that is happening at the macrocosmic level, the samashti, is equally available and happening here at the microcosmic level, the vyashti. And just to demonstrate this, if you look at our road system, it is structured, there's structure there, there's a certain order to our road system. If you look at our bodies, then there is, structure to our bodies. Everything is kind of put together, and every limb has a function. But if you look at your cell, it's the exact same thing. One cell, as we said some sessions ago, is made up of many components, like the nucleus inside, which holds your DNA strands. And then there's the mitochondria, which is for energy production. And there's the lysosome. And then there is the ribosome. And then there's the Golgi body. And then there is the mRNA is able to come onto the ribosome and get converted into a protein to repair the cell. And there's the fluid of the cell in which the whole thing is. So the cell in itself, tiny, and yet so much life. The whole body in itself, tiny, and yet so much life. The world that we construct, so much structure, so much order. So all across, we can see whatever is happening at the macrocosm level is exactly equally happening at the microcosm level. And the example that we use for this is one of a dream. So let's first look at the microcosm, right, at the level of the individual, and then we will look at it from a larger standpoint. And the reason for this is we always relate better to our own individual experience, and then we will tie this in to the macrocosm. So everyone has right now potential to dream. Okay? And how many dream worlds do you create on average? Science says about 4. So right now, you have a potential to create 4 different worlds, entirely different from each other. And they will all have different people, different kind of, mountains, different trees, different themes of the whole dream. In one dream there will be a fight, another dream there will be, some hugging, in another dream there will be some naughty business, in another dream there will be, God knows what. So every dream will have a different theme. And not only that, but within the theme, you will have different experience in that whole theme. You will have different mountains, different, time and space will be there. You will have, food, and then two people will come by and they will sort of have a fight inside the dream. Some of them will, start to argue. What is the nature of this dream? No, I'm right. No, you're right. You're wrong. And some will even have wars, religious wars within the dream, trying to figure out who is the creator of this dream. So all of this can happen within the dream. And it all is within the potential that you have right now. So much stuff can happen in a dream. Mountains, roads, trees, air, space. Where is that stuff on you now? Do you have like a mountain on you right now? Where is it? We say it is in potential. So could we say that the stuff of the dream is somehow contaminating you now? Could we say that when you dream, right, and you have this whole war and so much fighting in the dream, and that makes you somehow the waker, makes you the awareful being, makes you a bad person, a bad awareful being? Look at this. Your potential right now is dormant. It's not activated. It's not activated. And yet, it's possible to manifest a world of its own. And this potential of yours is both knowledge and power. Why knowledge? Because knowledge of all of the things that will take place in the dream. Knowledge of characters, knowledge of how people will move, knowledge of how things will interact, but also power. That means the ability to put it all together into one cohesive order, into one reality. Right now, everyone has that potential. But we're not bothered by that potential, are we? Like, what potential? What are you talking about? And yet, there is a potential. And when this dream gets created, then in the presence of this awareful being, you, there is a world that's manifesting, a world that is being sustained, a world that is, sometimes smooth, sometimes loud, sometimes whatever. And you, the awareful being, find yourself as one of the characters in that dream. One small person in that dream, you find yourself, the awareful being. And you don't see yourself as the creator of the dream, as the sustainer of the dream, as the resolver of the dream. You see yourself as one little individual amongst many. And then you ask, my God, what is the nature of this dream? And the whole thing is just knowledge and power. Your knowledge and power manifesting the whole world and giving you, the awareful being, a body, giving you a suit. And you're looking through the suit and you're looking at other things going, wow, what a big world. Your own power is doing all of that. And you never even suspect that it is within you. Because that's how amazing your power is. To convince you so much that all this time you've just been one small thing amongst many. And then within the dream we have now millions of philosophers, and they all start their own little thing about what's the nature of this dream. And they all fight and quarrel, and no one comes to agree. Some of them say, well, the creator is away from the dream. Some of them say that the creator is right here, manifesting as the dream. So in reference to the manifest dream, you, the awareful being, take on a new name. The creator of the dream. At the same time, you remain free of the dream, even though you're the creator, in reference to your knowledge and power. You're a creator in reference to your knowledge and power. All throughout the happenings of the dream, while being the creator, you remain free of your creations. Were you not to remain free, then upon waking, all of that stuff would just bother you. It would just be constantly on you now. While the dream is manifesting, all throughout one awareful being remains one awareful being, but by the power of your own potential to manifest names and forms, it forms as though millions of things which look as though completely real and solid and worthy of pursuit and worthy of discussion and worthy of dying for and worthy of living for. And yet the whole thing is just one awareful being's potential which has manifested out of oneself this world, and it took you for a ride. It took you for a ride, and for not in any moment were you ever contaminated by anything that was happening in the dream. And how long have you been dreaming? Suppose since beginningless time. Since beginningless time. Suppose it's a dream that never ends. And then the teacher comes inside the dream and says, this is fine, I also manifest this one manifestation, you're one manifestation, but there's so much more here than meets the eye, and I want to show you what that is. Tell me about it, says the character. And he says, well, all of this is being borrowed from you. The whole world is being borrowed out of your own existence awareness, and it's fooling you right now. Your body is existence awareness, one awareful being. The air you're breathing is existence awareness, one awareful being. And it's you right now. How do I come in touch with this reality? Well, you have been here since beginningless time, and you've been so much conditioned to see these forms and given reality that it's just not so easy. But it's absolutely possible. And that is the purpose of being in this dream, says the Guru. The purpose of the dream is to understand that all this is arising out of me. Yes. And when you understand that, you say, wow. So I can now continue to live my life in this dream of mine, but with a certain composure, a certain relief that there's just one more life to live out. Knowing now that I was never just this person, I was much more than just this person. Yes, says the Guru. That is what you're here for. You were always here for waking up. You always came here for one single purpose. But your own dream took you for a ride, and it was so tempting, enticing, convincing, that you made a big deal out of it, and you held onto this dream because it was so enticing to live it. And you created philosophies, and you intellectualized about the dream, and you did so many things, until one life you say, wait, if the whole thing is me, what is there to philosophize? What is there to philosophize here? The whole thing is just one awareful being by whose power is able to manifest this world. And when it does manifest, the awareful being finds himself as one of the many individuals, totally convinced that that is the case. And then one of the awareful beings listens to this, and they still don't buy it. They're still doubting it. They can't kind of connect. We say, that's fine. The dream will continue for you. The dream will continue. You're given a chance to help your mind come to a more cleaner state until you can kind of recognize that all that is here is you. This is the microcosm example. Now, let's talk about the macrocosm, because we need to connect our individual experience to the total universe. Now, when it comes to macrocosm, awareness, we said, is the final reality. And this awareness has or enjoys the potential to manifest a universe. And this potential, in reference to this potential, that same awareness is called Maya. Same reality, in reference to its potential to manifest the universe, is called Maya. So there's no question of saying Maya is one thing, awareness is another thing. It's one reality gaining different names from different standpoints. And this potential has the capacity to manifest time, space, and objects. And this capacity is knowledge and power. All knowledge, all power. Sarvajna, Sarva Shakti. All of it. There's no out there. It's all in one. One knowledge, one power, from which infinity arises, from which many arise. And when this potential activates, when this potential manifests, then in reference to the creations, in reference to the world, in reference to the creations, then awareness assumes a new name called creator of the universe. Thus, awareness gains a new name called Ishvara. Which is why when someone asked me back then, are concepts Ishvara? I said yes, but there's much more to it. Because Ishvara is not just concepts. Ishvara is awareness, assuming the role as creator while remaining free of the creations. No matter what happens in the creations, just like in a dream, it doesn't affect, it doesn't pollute awareness. And this one awareness, when it manifests the world, by the help of its potential, by the help of its knowledge power, then it manifests the world's air, space, it manifests you. Right now, it's manifesting you, the person. And then you look at yourself as just one of the many creations in this world. And you go, wow, such a big world to figure out. Let me study the universe. And you never thought about it that actually, if it's one reality manifesting as many, then even the jivas, the people that are manifesting, is also one reality. You can't say the person is something else, just like you cannot say that the person in your dream is something different from the awareful being. One and the same awareful being. It's one being manifesting, apparently manifesting as many. Not actually manifesting, apparently manifesting by the help of its potential, by the help of Maya. That means its capacity to manifest. That's what Maya means, capacity to manifest, potential to manifest. So whether we're talking about Maya or Jiva, that means the person that is manifest, just like one of those characters in a dream, that's a Jiva. Maya is the potential to manifest. And Ishvara is that same knowledge power, but manifesting.
If I'm sleeping, you are the creator of the dream. You are in it. So in that, on that level, you are the experiencer in the dream, a jiva. You create this whole dream that is a Maya, and the Maya is nothing else than that which you have created of your knowledge and what is that word? With your knowledge and potential.
Yeah, power.
And when you wake up, you realize it's just an image. I'm not contained by it, but I was the person who created all this. So in that sense, I'm the Ishvara of that.
Yeah, so the only limitation with that is, see, it's not like with a dream it has a limitation.
Yeah.
So with a dream, you wake up and then the whole thing's different.
Yeah.
So this kind of gives you an impression it's going to be nirupadika tyasa.
Mm-hmm.
But with a dream, with this world, when we wake up, and don't call this a dream, by the way. Dream is only reference to your individual. Do not call this a dream. This is called empirical reality, empirical manifestation. The only thing is, the difference is when one, quote, wakes up, one, removes ignorance, then it's not something like you see something different.
No, you realize that it was just a dream. It was just created in my knowledge, and
you recognize that what I saw was forms, right? What I've been seeing was forms, but all of those forms are a manifestation of one conscious being.
Yeah.
Okay, this one conscious being, awareness, has the potential to manifest the universe. That potential, just like for a waker, can be potential, but it doesn't say anything about awareness, the awareful being.
But you are aware in the dream that you have your awareness in the dream as a jiva.
Yeah.
So you see everything, and when you wake up, you realize that was me in the dream as a jiva.
Yeah.
As with awareness.
Yeah.
And here I am awake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so
true.
You can make the shift.
Well, I mean, you're who you are now is who you were back in a dream, but you just had a different kind of body, right?
Yeah.
The point is there was one awareful being throughout. The awareful being now in the waking is the exact awareful being in the dream. But in a dream, it's just, you have a different theme about you. You have a different personality, you can be a man, you can be a woman, you can be a worm, you can be a little animal. So all of that is just a manifestation of the one awareful being.
Yeah.
So now I brought that down to the macrocosm, to the total, and I said that like this awareness, which is known to you right now as I am, right now it's known to you, that awareness enjoys the capacity to manifest the universe. And that capacity, in reference to it being a potential, while that capacity is in potential, that's called Maya. That capacity is called Maya. You can also say that awareness is called Maya in reference to its capacity to manifest. Okay? Because I know you've probably heard before, only potential is called Maya. Okay? But now what I'm saying is I'm introducing a new idea that even awareness can be called Maya in reference to potential to manifest. And the reason I'm saying this is because we're so used to saying Maya is one thing and awareness is another thing. Potential to manifest is one thing and awareness is another thing. It is one reality gaining different names, just like this gains different names, the table, depending what standpoint you look at it from. And when this manifestation finally comes, then that same awareness in reference to the created world gains a new name, another name called Ishvara. So again, it's not like Ishvara is now one thing and awareness is another thing. Okay? One reality gaining different names from different standpoints.
It's another beautiful way to express non-duality.
Okay.
So like the elephant, we started off seeing it from different angles.
From different angles. So what I'm showing you is there's no such thing as something out there. This is it, man. This is it. Okay? So it's just the mind is constantly throwing in objections and resistance, and it doesn't want to accept this. But this is all there is to it. No matter where you're in Hawaii, in Bahamas, on Mars, where would you like to go? You're still going to be right there. It's just your manifestation all along. This is why I say 95% of Vedanta is just helping the mind just to calm down and pop these pratibhasika bubbles. They want it to be different. Just like in your dream, no matter where you are in your private dream, the whole thing is you all along. Okay? So now you say, well, is God, is Ishvara? Ishvara is the cause of the universe. Is it mithya? Well, look at this carefully. Because we said, wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where satyam is. Wherever there is manifestation, that's exactly where a awareful being is. There's no question of saying Ishvara is one thing, Maya is another, and awareness is something else. You don't even bring that up. That's just kind of like preliminary. But then you let go of that teaching too. It's just like staying with this whole neti, it's not this, not this, not. If you remain in neti, you go crazy, constantly discarding everything. That was preliminary. you have to come to a next stage. And that is say, okay, this whole Mithya, Satya was also preliminary, was also to help me see, kind of get some sense of reality. But even that becomes only Satyam. Only Satyam alone is. One reality alone is. To understand that one reality, we introduce another word of that reality called Mithya. And then we do a little analysis between what is independent, what is dependent. What is independent, what is dependent. Ultimately, one awareful being appearing as all of this. Therefore, there's no question of saying I'm above Ishvara and below Ishvara, or Ishvara is punishing me. If there's only one reality here, who's punishing whom? The whole thing is just cause-effect relationship from the standpoint of creation. That's how the law is. That's how your knowledge power has made it such that when you find yourself in a dream, you are just operating within certain laws and they can't be broken because there has to be a certain order. Look at your cell of the body. It is constantly working for 90 plus years, 24/7. It never breaks down. And if it does, its cell fixes itself. And that's just the cell. You apply that to anywhere across the world, full of knowledge. And that knowledge is your own potential manifesting. Now, what's the difference between microcosm and macrocosm? Well, when it comes to dream, then in reference to your dream, you are limited knowledge, limited power. Because you only generate your own world. Very small world you generate. But when it comes to the total knowledge power, it not only generates the universe, as it's doing right now, by the way, but it also generates beings, such as the self, me, who also is endowed with to create their own dream. And the logic in the scriptures is gatasya karta gatanyaha. However, sarvasya karta sarvanyaha. In other words, if you take a maker of a pot, for example, the maker of a pot is able to make a pot because they have knowledge of the pot. That's why they can make the pot. If you tell them, make me some pasta, right? Maybe you don't know this, but make me some delicious pasta, they won't have that knowledge. But whereas when it comes to the total creator, he has to know everything to create everything. The pot maker only has to know pot knowledge to create the pot. But when it comes to creating your heart, your brain, the air, cyclones, clouds, sun, gravity, cells, living beings, elements, periodic table of elements, nuclear fission, thermodynamics, gravity, all of this, you have to have knowledge of every single one of those things to create it. This is why the potential in reference to total on a macrocosm is all knowledge, all power. But your own potential now, your potential, my potential is only a little bit. Whatever gets created in your dream, whatever is being created now, it is nothing but knowledge within knowledge, within knowledge, within knowledge, within knowledge. If you analyze something in your dream, and you try to walk through the wall in your dream, can you walk through it? Yeah, in your dream, yes, see, this is the limitation of the example. But suppose you can't, okay? Isn't it interesting? You're hitting solid wall, and yet it's nothing but blueprint, concepts, mere concepts, making it hard, unable to punch through the wall. That's how powerful this knowledge power is, that it's just setting it up such that you can't go through your own, you can't violate the laws. Yet the whole thing is just concepts within concepts, entwined with each other. Just to look at your eye, an ophthalmologist, as I said, takes 10 years plus just to look at the retina of the eye. So much knowledge around the eye itself. Okay? So what Vedanta wants to show you is that most of Vedanta is all about Ishvara. The moment you make it about awareness, then you're forced to create your own realities to explain away the forms. You say, I don't want to know forms, I don't want to know about the world, I just want to know about awareness. And then you're forced to discard the world because I cannot explain it away. This is the cost of not having the prakriya, the methodology. And then Ishvara just keeps you as one more individual. Therefore, Advaita is about including everything, because the whole thing is one manifesting as different standpoints. The question is, can you interchange the words Ishvara and Brahman? Strictly no. Okay. So yes, it is one reality, but remember, just because it's one reality, to understand it, you have to still have a very clear understanding of what is what. So when it comes to Brahman, we call Brahman Vivarta Upadana Karanam. This is a new word, Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Okay, so Upadana Karanam means material cause, but it is Vivarta. Vivarta means it changes, but as though. Okay, not actually changes. Just like the awareful being. Okay? When you dream, does the awareful being actually change into a mountain? And yet there is a change, right? The awareful being is changing, but it's not actual change. It is only apparent change in reference to the awareful being's knowledge and power. Okay? In other words, there's another word, two important words to understand is kutastha. Okay, I'll put this later in the next session. Okay? So, now when it comes to, I'll just compare these two words with Now, Ishvara is parinami upadana karanam. Parinami upadana karanam. Okay? So parinami upadana karanam means knowledge power goes through an actual transformation. So for example, when you dream, your potential to dream is called parinami upadana karanam. Why? Because your knowledge power is actually going through a flux in order to manifest as a wall, to manifest as a cloud, to manifest as people, to manifest as a subject. You understand this? So your knowledge power potential is actually constantly changing, shaping and molding itself to manifest as your dream. But who is not actually changing? I am, the awareful being. However, from the standpoint of the dream, since everything is the awareful being I, it seems like I am changing. Which is why we say Brahman, consciousness, is the material cause. So who fills up your dream? What fills up your dream? The awareful being. I do. Yeah? Who else fills up your dream? Somebody else? Does someone put like material? Okay, from where does the material come from? The one awareful being. But now, in reference to your potential to manifest the world, that potential actually is constantly shaping and shifting, shaping and shifting, shaping and shifting, shaping and shifting. And because it is your potential, it seems like you are shaping and shifting, shaping and shifting. But you, the awareful being, are not shaping and shifting. What is shaping and shifting and changing? Your potential. That's why this is actually goes through a flux. Flux of manifest and unmanifest. Okay? So constantly, look at this. You have unmanifest cell right now. And then suddenly, right, two people go through a process, whatever you call that process, and they make a baby. Okay? And you had nothing once upon a time. And now you've got cells manifesting. From no cells to cells. From 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells to 60 cells. Constantly changing. And the cell itself is constantly going through manifest, unmanifest. Unmanifest, manifest. Just to repair the cell, you have to get rid of the old cell and bring a new kind of atoms, new kind of cell to be repaired. And yet the whole cell is nothing but your potential to manifest. Okay? This we will continue after our break.
Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.